Welcome back, everybody. I'm recording this on a rainy Wednesday. Hopefully, it's done raining by the day you're watching this. But let's get into some more Chapter 10 today. We're back by popular demand. A couple more beard scratches to get us started, so listen carefully. Yep, good old beard scratches. All right. This is 10.1. This was the homework last Monday or Tuesday. I just wanted to give you guys some of the answers. So here's the answers from the homework. So there's 9 and 11. Okay. You could just screenshot this and look at them later if you want. Here's 13, 15, and 17. So you guys go back in the video and just look these over. If you have any questions, feel free to send me some screenshots and some questions in as a Canvas message. And then there's 19. That's what I did it up to. Okay, so if you have any questions on that, feel free to, screenshot or maybe give me a time in the video and a number or something, and I'll try and figure it out. Okay, here's today's homework, 10.1b. I'm just going to do a couple more examples of stuff where usually my students have questions. Let's try and go through a couple more examples. Keep this one short so you have more time to work it out. Feel free to even work with each other on this and say, hey, how do you get this? Help each other out. Be a resource for each other. All right, so I'm going to go to number 2 just because there's a negative out front. Sometimes that throws us, right? Doesn't really change much, just makes my answer negative. So I just leave the negative out there, and then there it is. And then I just simplify like I usually would. So when there's no plus or minus in the numerator or the denominator, so it's just 10a, it's 8a squared. There's no plus or minus. Those are the easiest to do because we don't have to do any factoring. There's no dividing out a GCF. There's no X marks a spot, none of that. If there's no plus or minus in the numerator or denominator, you're just reducing a fraction, which in this case is going to be 10/8, and then you are simplifying variables. Okay, so let's start with reducing 10 over 8. So I'm just ignoring the a's for now. What can I divide out of both 10 and 8? The GCF, I could divide a 2 out of both of those. 10 divided by 2 gives me 5, and 8 divided by 2 gives me 4. That part's done. I just simplified the leading coefficients. Now we have 1a on top. You'll notice in my answer key for 10.1, and then I have a squared, which is really a times a. So I just wrote 2 of them, okay, and then those 2 cancel. So what's left? 1a on the bottom. Final answer. Just leave that negative out front. Negative 5 over 4a. Done. Okay. So then just to quickly go through 1, right? Okay, 56 and 80. I think 8 goes out of both of those. So that's going to be a 7 over 10. There's 2 k's on top, 1 on the bottom. So that 1 on the bottom cancels out 1 on the top, leaving me with 1. There you go. All right, so those are typically the easiest. Now I'm going to go through and do a couple where we have to do X marks a spot and some where we don't. So for number 3, okay, you don't always have to factor both the top and the bottom. Sometimes it's just the top or just the bottom. In this case, the bottom, there's nothing I could factor out of x and 3. I can't divide anything out of x and 3 evenly, so that's actually just going to stay the same. So really, I'm going to redraw this. The x minus 3 stays on the bottom. Keeping in mind, anytime I get that plus or minus in the numerator or the denominator, put parentheses around it. This means in the last problem, I was able to take, the 56 and the 80 and then, reduce that fraction to 7 over 10. You cannot do that when there's pluses or minuses. Once we start getting into binomials and trinomials, this negative 3 and this negative 21, I cannot reduce those. Okay, even though 3 can go into 21, when there's a plus or minus involved, you have to put it in parentheses, and you have to factor at least one of them. Right? You're going to have to take one of them and factor them either using X marks a spot or by dividing out a GCF. So the bottom I can't do anything, but the top, the numerator, I have a trinomial, and a quadratic trinomial. So that means I'm going to do x marks the spot. So I do my x. Remember, it's a, b, c, although I don't think I give you any leading coefficients. It'll just be the basement and the ceiling. The ceiling is negative 21, and the basement is 4. Okay, so our two magic numbers are going to be what multiplies to negative 21, but then, ooh, that's cool, and then adds to 4. So it's going to be some iteration of 7 and 3, I believe. Okay, because 7 minus 3 is 4, so it's going to be 7 and 3. Which one gets the negative? 3, right? 7 times negative 3 is negative 21. Okay. 7 plus negative 3, or 7 minus 3 is 4. Ta-da! Magic numbers, and then I write out my answer as x plus 7, x minus 3. Now the reason I do that is because now look what I have on the top and the bottom. I said that we can't reduce like this 3 and this 21, negative 3, negative 21, because they're in parentheses, but if I have matching parentheses like two x minus 3's, I can cancel those out. So the x minus 3's cancel. I'm left with just an x plus 7. You don't have to put it over 1. You could if you wanted to, but I'm just going to write x plus 7. That's fine. If it was x plus 7 on the bottom, then I would have to write it as 1 over x plus 7 for sure. You can't have a bottom and then no top, but I can have a top with no bottom, or you could write it like this. Either one's fine. Okay. So x plus 7 or x plus 7 over 1. You don't even need the parentheses. I just keep them on there. But you don't even need the parentheses here. You could just put x plus 7 over 1 and you'd be good, or just x plus 7. Okay, let's do another. Oh, that's what I was going to say. You can, I don't want to say cheat. It's not really cheating. But when we saw, before I did my x marks the spot, you saw that there was an x minus 3 on the bottom, right? This x minus 3 was always on the bottom. You could kind of safely guess that after you factor this, one of these is going to cross off with the x minus 3. So in your head, you can think, all right, one of my answers for x marks the spot is going to be negative 3 because typically, and I'm saying typically because I think all of them do, right? After you factor, it's going to cancel with something. Okay, so you can kind of look ahead that way and say, what numbers am I going to get to cancel here? It doesn't always work that way, but I think for the most part. All right, let me touch on 4 here really quick. Now 36 doesn't have a plus or a minus. It's all by itself, so I'm just going to leave it by itself. 36 chills. Okay, but 18v and 18, it's got a plus in the middle, so I'm going to put it in parentheses. Okay, what could I divide out of both of those evenly? I think I divide an 18 out of both. That's the GCF. So I divide out the 18, what's left? 18 divided by 18 is 1v, or just v. And another 18 is just another 1. So I have 18 and then really v plus 1. I'm going to get that 1 out of there. Okay, v plus 1. Okay, now when we do that, that gives us now, we have this 18 is standing alone and this 36 is standing alone. I could simplify that just like I would any other fraction, right? How do you simplify 36 over 18? I think you can divide an 18 out of both. It's going to reduce to 2 over 1. So my final answer is going to be 2 over 1, and then we have the v plus 1. Lots of 1s in that one. Even this 1 is kind of unnecessary, but I'm just going to leave it. 2 over 1 v plus 1. Okay. And I'll do one more with 2 x marks the spots. All right, I'll do 5 and 7 really quick. All right, so first x marks the spot for the top is going to be negative 6, and my b is going to be 1. Magic numbers. Okay, keep in mind my little hack. Let's call it. That's good. It's a hack. It's a math hack for my class. X plus 3 and then x minus 2. Pretty likely that when I do x marks the spot for the numerator now, one of them is either going to be, one of my magic numbers is either going to be 3 or negative 2. So let's see if my hack works out. Let's see. The ceiling is negative 30. The basement is negative 7. How about 10 and 3? It's a negative on top, so one of these has to be negative. I think it's be the bigger. And look at that, positive 3 in the other one. So my magic numbers are positive 3 and negative 10. Okay, and then cross off any matching. Final answer, x minus 2, x minus 10. Leave the parentheses, don't leave the parentheses. The reason we have the parentheses is just so we have the restraint to not just cross these off. I can't cross those off when there's a plus or a minus involved, right? So if you need to leave the parentheses, do it. Just so you're reminded that you can't just go and start breaking apart. You can't bust a binomial. It's one of those things. You can't just break apart an x minus 2 and factor that and reduce that way. Okay, I'll do one more. 7. Okay, the top one's x marks the spot, the bottom one isn't. Okay, so the top one, x marks the spot, ceiling is 9, basement is 10. Remember, when the numbers are close, it's probably 1 in the number, so 9 and 1. We have x plus 9, x plus 1, or they're v's, whatever. V's, x's, doesn't matter. 9 and 1, okay. And what's the GCF for this? Now, they both are 2, so I could divide a 2, but do they both have v's? Yeah, this one has 2 v's, this one has 1. So they each have 1 in common. Remember, you just take the smallest of the two. If it's v squared in v, if it was v to the third in just a v, you always just take the smaller. Oops. The smallest exponent, which is v, and that's going to be a part of the GCF. So it's going to be 2. Oh, that's right, I changed it to x. 2x is what I divide out. What's 2 divided by 2? 1. V squared divided by v. It's just I'm left with this singular v, or an x. Okay, and then these v's cancel. Those 2's cancel. What happens when everything cancels? What am I going to do there? Right? It's just a 1. And that's the same. If I get to the point in the problem here, and everything cancels, the answer is just 1. But in this case, I have... And you can always look out. Hey, if I have an x plus 1 on the top, an x plus 9 on the top, probably one of those is going to cancel. All right, so I'm left with an x plus 9 on the top. I'm left with a 2x on the bottom, and that's going to be my final answer. I can't do anything further without knowing what x is. All right, so if you have any questions, it's better if you send me a picture with your question. Don't just ask, like, how do I do number 9? Show me what you have so far and ask me something specific, and I can help you out as best I can. All right, good luck. And make sure you read the directions on the assignment to know when to turn it in and how many to do. All right, deuces.